You're listening to Wildlife Control Consultant, where we provide research-based information on all things related to vertebrate pest management. Hi everyone, Stephen Vantassel here, Wildlife Control Consultant, bringing you another episode of the Wildlife Control Consultant podcast. Hey, glad to have you on board. I hope your week went well. I have been very, very busy. So I was glad that I got so many podcasts in the kitty, so I had a little break. But now I need to kind of get back into the swing of things in terms of some recording and trying to get more stuff out. If you're new to the podcast, if you're wondering what this is all about, well, we are all about technical information related to the wildlife control industry. So anything that has a spine, that's an animal, we're interested in controlling and managing its damage, protect human health and safety and the wider environment. So that's basically what we do. So we're always looking for individuals who have something to say about wildlife control issues. You can certainly, if you want to be on the show, you can reach me at wildlifecontrolconsultant@gmail.com, wildlifecontrolconsultant@gmail.com. Would love to hear from you. If you have thoughts, concerns, criticisms, definitely you can send those along as well. Well, what else do I say here? Well, you can see my voice is still a little hoarse, so I've had a number of speaking engagements that I've been involved in, so definitely bear with me here as we work through today. So this week, came across something that I thought, a lot of wildlife control operators probably are not aware of this, and I'm going to call this the wildlife control supplier that you don't know about, but that you should know about. Even if you don't purchase anything from them, you should definitely think about that. So I hope that's a good enough tease for you. Before we get to that, definitely take a few moments, if you would, to subscribe to the channel, ring the bell. We'd love to have you subscribe to our podcast. We're available, of course, on YouTube or on Rumble. Here's my website, where you see in the picture now, where you can see the various materials that I have available. There's certainly more than what I have listed here. Just sort of scroll down and you can certainly see that if you're interested in some of that material. Also, we have consultation, and I do work with helping people with their PowerPoint development as well. So I wanted to talk a little bit about the Pocatello Supply Depot. Let me pull this up. Now, they don't really have a website. So this is what makes them a little bit more hidden, in why many people in the wildlife control industry are not aware of them. Now, the Pocatello Supply Depot, if you're like, what, the Pocatello Supply Depot? Let me pause for a moment and kind of situate you where they are located, okay? So here's the United States. It's Idaho, this little red state way out here, red-colored state, out here in the western end of the country. Pocatello is located out here in Idaho. So you have Washington State in the upper left-hand corner. We're looking at the lower 48 here. Obviously, Alaska and Hawaii are down the bottom left there. And then you have Oregon, and Idaho is next to them. Idaho also borders Wyoming and Montana and Nevada and, of course, Utah. So that is where Idaho is. So it's out in my neck of the woods, so to speak, because you know that I'm from Montana. You're like, well, where in Idaho? Well, let's kind of drill down here a little bit. In Idaho, you have the Panhandle. It's not up there. It's right down in here in this lower right-hand area, Pocatello Supply Depot, Pocatello, Idaho. So it's right along this major highway. I think that might be 80, or no, it can't be 80. It has to be like probably 9. Don't know what route that is, so I'd have to go look at that a little bit closer. But it's certainly one of the major routes going down, of course, into Utah, down to Ogden, past Logan, that sort of thing. So it's in southeast Idaho. So that's where they're located. And so what is the Pocatello Supply Depot? Well, it's a branch of the National Wildlife Research Area. So when you're looking at the USDA, that's United States Department of Agriculture, One of its divisions is called APHIS. That's Animal Protection Health Inspection Service. Those are the individuals that are responsible for making sure that we don't have diseased animals and plants and invasive insects coming into the United States. And so they inspect things at the border. They're also, of course, interested in plant and animal health. Of course, it's part of their whole disease mandate. But a division within that is Wildlife Services. You may know them as the quote-unquote government trappers. They are a favorite target of the animal rights protest industry. And the animal rights protest industry makes a lot of hay about Wildlife Services. You know, it's government killing of wildlife, the war against wildlife, all this kind of really over-the-top talk that they use because it, you know, in my opinion, it generates the money, right? So, and I think that I'm pretty accurate on that. But nevertheless, they are the individuals who are responsible for working with ranchers and producers, and they also work with your airports. So if you fly in major airports around the country, chances are the person who's responsible for preventing bird strikes is someone who works for Wildlife Services. Now, an arm of Wildlife Services is the National Wildlife Research Center that is located in Boulder, not Boulder, Colorado, but it's just near Boulder, Colorado. And another arm of Wildlife Services is Pocatello Supply Depot. Now, Pocatello Supply Depot is responsible for giving the supplies and equipment for individuals working with Wildlife Services. So that is things like M44s, the capsules, and the ejectors. They also produce some pesticides, of course. Sodium cyanide, which is used in M44s, is a pesticide. So they actually package those, and so they are, in a sense, I think they're actually registered as a pesticide manufacturer. And part of their ancillary or side activities is they do sell products to the public. But because of concern over competing with the private sector, they don't really advertise. So it's either word of mouth, which I'm telling you now, because they really don't have a website, right? So here's their website. This is the only thing I could find. And it's basically a postcard page telling you what they do. And so we're going to break this down here quickly. Let me try to blow it up a little bit so those of you that are watching can see it a little bit easier. So there it is, Pocatello Supply Depot, showing you their facilities there, right? And it's located in Pocatello, Idaho, southeast Idaho. And this is what they've had. It's been in operation since 1936. It has a laboratory, manufacturing, and storage facilities. And these are the key activities listed on this webpage. And I'm just going to read them because some of you, I'm sure, are driving. So they producing specialized wildlife damage management equipment and supplies. They also coordinate and maintain pesticide registrations. That's part of that role that they are a pesticide manufacturer. They formulate APHIS, APHIS, that's the Animal Protection Health Inspection Service, registered vertebrate pesticides. So again, they sell vertebrate pesticides, and they provide technical assistance in coordinated testing and development of existing control methods and other wildlife services. So part of their job is that when wildlife control specialists with Wildlife Services, they come up with control techniques or ideas for tools, and Pocatello Supply Depot is part of that mix to see if they can bring something to development. So there are people doing research like the National Wildlife Research Center in Fort Collins, just out near Boulder, Fort Collins, Colorado. They sometimes invent equipment that wildlife services personnel use in the field to manage wildlife damage. Pocatello Supply Depot will be part of that mix in terms of the manufacturing, selling, putting together, maintaining process, and that's what the Pocatello Supply Depot does as well. And then their last key activity listed here is they are disseminating technical information concerning the production, shipment, storage, and disposal of materials provided by the depot. So, for example, if a wildlife services personnel has, let's say, outdated M44s, perhaps they may mail those back to the facility and have them disposed of. I don't know if that's actually how they handle it, but I'm just giving you an illustration that they would be involved with the shipment and disposal of some materials. They also collaborate, right? So they're collaborating with other government agencies, collaborate with one another. They form associations to work together on projects. So they work obviously with the EPA, of course, and they work with pesticide registration, which is part of the EPA, and of course the National Wildlife Research Center and its regulatory support services for product registration. And there's a lot involved with product registration, right? The EPA is a highly regulated organization. They put out a lot of rules. Pocatello Supply Depot has to be up to date with those rules because they are a pesticide manufacturer, right? So what else do they do? We're interested not so much in their regulatory side or in some of the details of what they're doing with pesticides, other than maybe coming out with new products. We're interested in what do they sell for you, right? Because there's two parts to Pocatello Supply Depot. Part one are materials that are only available to someone who is in wildlife services. So you have to be one of those federal employees to get access to certain materials in Pocatello Supply Depot. Not really going to deal with that because you can't purchase it, right? Even in my day job, I can't get some of those materials because it's only wildlife services. What would one of those things be? DRC 1339. That stuff is awesome. It's an avicide, but unfortunately there are no retail versions, any retail products containing that active ingredient. Again, that's DRC 1339. It would be awesome if someone out there brought that to market back to market for the public, which would be huge, right? Because it's such a wonderful product. Only wildlife services personnel can get access to DRC 1339. So we're not going to talk about those other items. We're going to talk about what they can sell us, right, in terms of the general public and primarily people who are interested in wildlife control. Of course, people like yourself, wildlife control operators, wildlife damage management professionals. So here's some of the pesticides that they have. Okay, they have the gas cartridge, both small and large. The small is used for ground squirrels and prairie dogs. The large is used for predators such as skunks and coyotes. They also produce strychnine and strychnine milo, strychnine oats. Gonicon, not something that we're really interested in our field. It typically is for horses. Typically we're not controlling horses, but when you think about the wild horse program, they will treat those horses in the field to prevent them from reproducing because they're devastating the American West. And then, of course, you have acetaminophen for brown tree snake control. But again, those are going to be products that typically are only going to be available for wildlife services, even though they are general use products. Others, you have, of course, whenever you're using strychnine in a gopher getter, something people call them burrow builders. These are products for pocket gophers. Those are restricted. Now, I just want to give a little caveat here. As of 2026, if my understanding is correct, the rule goes through that all strychnine products are going to be restricted use products. Presently, right now, and I'm recording in 2025, depending on, unless your state has made it a restricted use pesticide, there are hand baiting uses of strychnine that are general use. So you as a homeowner can go to the store and get strychnine unless your state has made it a restricted use product, which of course requires you to have a license. They also produce zinc phosphide products, zinc phosphide for wheat, and they do some 24Cs for Colorado and Idaho. They also have zinc phosphide on oats, zinc phosphide concentrate. For those of you that want to make your own, that is an option for you as well. And then they have probably that's going to be of interest to most of you, and that is their lures, attractants, deodorizers, and they have some interesting miscellaneous trapping supplies. And so if you're looking for something a little different, they have some trapping supplies. So let me pull up their catalog. And again, this catalog is not available online. You have to request their catalog, okay? So this is the latest catalog we got and it's dated February 26, 2025. Talks about the ordering process up here at the top. Okay, so let me try to blow that up a little bit more here, right? Talks about ordering by fax. Now, they do not accept phone orders. You can't just call them up and make an order, right? They do have an online paying process. Now, that's relatively new, okay? That's relatively new to me. That's something they must have put in within the last calendar, probably last 12 months, because I think I would have heard about it if it was older than that. Or you have to either send them a check, and they don't do CODs, right? So you got to have everything paid up in front here, okay? They use freight shipping, of course. Some of the products, if you're buying pesticides, there's going to be probably some dangerous product expenses on top of that, other than just the general shipping cost, of course. But if you're in the Pocatello Supply Depot area, you can do pickup. You can pick up products, so you can kind of bypass the whole shipping process altogether. Now, they talk about overnight orders, right? They can't guarantee next day delivery. Only a few products can be shipped overnight. And there are situations where there are back orders. Like for a year or so ago, there was an issue with back ordering on their ignitable gas cartridges. I think they were having trouble getting some of the materials to make those ignitable gas cartridges. Nevertheless, let's take a quick look at some of the products that they have here. Now, look at the non-restricted use supplies. These are products that are being used for the trapping side of things. And so they have FAST, DRC 6220, catnip oil, predator survey discs, because again, part of what wildlife services do sometimes is they'll put out discs to lure predators to an area to see what the population numbers are. And they have interesting trapping materials here. The Terman trap scales, trap jaw retainers, trap springs, breakaway neck snare locks and parts, 1/8 foot snare locks and parts, and then of course miscellaneous supplies. The gopher hole probe, that's something for pocket gophers. They have sign stickers and batteries for some of their equipment. In terms of pesticides, they have the rodent gas cartridges that we've already mentioned, the large denning cartridges, which are for carnivores, skunk, fox, and coyote. And then they have the pocket gopher strychnine hand baits. Again, that's still general use right now, but that's going to change in 2026, according to my understanding. Then for those of you that have pesticide licenses and want to get some different products here, they sell pocket gopher strychnine for burrow builders, as well as zinc phosphide grain baits, zinc phosphide concentrate, and the lecithin material. Now, the lecithin material is used to coat the grain that you're working with. So then when you put in the powder, the zinc phosphide powder, it adheres to the grain. So that's what the lecithin mineral oil is all about. So, what I think some of you will find most interesting is the animal attractants. Look at this DRC 6220 synthetic monkey pheromone. Wow. I mean, I'm not a bait manufacturer, but that is just, at least yet, I have an idea that I'm hoping to come out with. But a synthetic monkey pheromone, you may want to buy it and give it a shot. They have it in 1 ounce ready to use diluted form, or 4 ounce ready to use diluted form, or a 4 ounce concentrate. Right? So fatty acid scent, this is something that's often used for predator products. So the dealers that you're buying predator items from may be using Pocatello Supply Depot as one of their sources. How about this? Genuine catnip oil. Not synthetic catnip oil, the real deal. Okay. Now notice it's highlighted only for wildlife services only, unless you're approved by the Pocatello Supply Depot manager. Those of you want the real stuff. Notice it's not cheap, $50 an ounce. 16 ounces, $670. That's amazing. Of course, shipping is on top of that. Predator survey disc, for those of you that want to do some testing with your products. May want some unscented ones that you can try out. Okay. And then adjuvant, these are the alternative for Freud's adjuvant. Again, research only, no shipping restrictions. Call the PSD manager for ordering information. For those of you looking for a deodorant for skunks, this is Neutroleum Alpha. Now keep in mind, Neutroleum Alpha is a toxic substance, so you do need to dilute it and be careful with it, but it is pretty effective at masking skunk odor. So remember, there's different ways to deodorize. I think I have a podcast on deodorizing that you can look up. But with deodorizing, you can mask the odor that's covered over with a new smell that overwhelms it. You can dilute the odor, you can encapsulate the odor, or you can degrade the odor. And so Neutroleum Alpha masks the odor. It's sort of like putting perfume over something else. Now you say, well, I don't want to do that. I want to get rid of it. Well, the Neutroleum Alpha is really effective on skunk odor, and it's done pretty well. So you may want to have a little bottle of it in handy for some of those clients. But again, do follow your state requirements on the use of being deodorant. It may be treated like you're applying not necessarily a pesticide, but there may be requirements in your state about using chemicals for certain deodorizing activities or cleaning activities. So some states are highly regulated. I'm thinking New York is ringing a bell in my ear. So those of you in New York, my apologies, but you're pretty regulated out there. So other states are getting that way as well. You may need to check into what the restrictions would be for you to use that at someone's house as opposed to on your own equipment, right? So if you're using a plastic catch trap and a skunk is lit off in it, Neutroleum Alpha will take care of that odor, no problem. But when you're using it on set, someone's house to take care of a deodorizing problem there, you may need a permit or license in your particular state. So read the label, read the SDS sheet, but it may be something you want to check out. Again, 8 ounces concentrate, $41, so the stuff isn't cheap. Now, they also have trapping supplies. So they have trap scales for measuring foothold trap tension. Again, coyote fox size, coyote wolf trap size. Jaw retainers. This is where it helps protect you from getting your fingers caught. And then, of course, they have replacement springs. And they also have supplies for snares. And so they have different locks and locking parts. So if you're someone who wants to build snares, this is some equipment that you may want to check out because, again, Wildlife Services is highly regulated. So when they're using products, they've had literally thousands of hours in the field with some of these materials. And so these are the products that the Wildlife Service, or the government trappers, as people kind of call them, are using in the field. And so that should count for something. These guys don't have a lot of time on their hands, right? They're pretty busy, and they don't want to be dealing with crap. Okay, so it's something for you to think about in terms of some of the equipment. You may want to check it out and say, do I want to incorporate this into my own wildlife control program to some of the tools, because if Federal Wildlife Services is using them, maybe it's something I need to consider using myself because they're only going to use some of the best stuff. Now they have 1/8 cable down here, and those they have using for foot snares. Another technique that they're using, foot snares are often used, of course, for predators. There's even a foot snare. A guy I know has built one for bears. Okay, he was former Wildlife Services. Now, if you want to go for probe, this is where what you use to find the main tunnel for the pocket gopher, and you can buy one of those for $25. And then, of course, you have signs, poison bait sign, generic, that if you wanted to use signage when you're putting a pesticide out, because then again, out here in the West, we're doing sometimes large acreage treatments when you're going after prairie dogs, for example, or ground squirrels. It's not, you could do 40 acres and more in some circumstances, and you may want to put signage out just to tell people, hey, don't let your dog roam through here. And then trap tension devices underneath the spring, underneath your pans. Those are priced there as well. Here are those gas cartridges. Of course, you have the small, as I've already mentioned, and then the large, and then, of course, the wicks. Now, keep in mind, one of my criticisms about these small cartridge is that when you're using it on ground squirrels, keep in mind it's like almost 2 inches thick, right? So maybe 1.5 inches, about the size of my putting an OK symbol here, right? So that's the distance. That they're pretty thick cartridges. So make sure they fit in the burrow before you light them, right? But nevertheless, they're about almost at $4 a piece now. So you're buying them in sets of 50. But if you do a lot of work, the one beauty of fumigants is there's no secondary poisoning, which is kind of cool. Now, don't forget, there's 2 different versions of these cartridges. You have the small and large in the public version. Then they have the small and large in the Wildlife Services version, and their labels are different than our labels, right? So they're going to know when they sell it to you, you're only going to get the public version, not the Wildlife Services version of the label. Same product, as my understanding, but the label is vastly different. So labels matter, folks. Labels do matter. If you're looking for strychnine, again, they have it in Milo, they have it in oats, and again, you can see the prices here. Not too bad. And then, of course, burrow builders and strychnine oats for burrow builders, and you can see the prices there. And then zinc phosphide grain baits. There are some of the 24Cs are expired, but again, not very expensive. You say, well, 5 pounds for $20. Yeah, but when you're using zinc phosphide, you're often only using a teaspoon per application when you're spot baiting, for example. So it's an extraordinarily small. So it's not only is it cheap ordinarily, but it's also you're using such small amounts because zinc phosphide's pretty toxic stuff. And they have it, of course, in wheat. They have it in oats. I wish we had better research to determine which one worked better, but it may be something you're going to have to play with in your own field to determine which one works better, but they have them in both sides. And then, of course, the zinc phosphide concentrate, but again, approval required, so you can't just call up and be guaranteed to get it. This is some pretty dangerous stuff here. So I doubt they're just going to be selling that to anybody. So you're probably going to have to build a reputation for it. And then, of course, the lecithin oil adhesive is used, again, to adhere the zinc phosphide product onto the grain itself. And that's pretty much about it. That's Pocatello Supply Depot. Like I said, it is probably the least known supplier that should be known by wildlife control operators. It's Pocatello Supply Depot. So you may want to go check them out. Well, thanks for watching, everyone. I hope you found that information helpful. Even if you don't buy anything from them, it gives you another option, and you may want to reach out and have them email you a copy of their price list, right? So that would be certainly useful for you as well. Even if you don't buy anything, it's always nice to see other prices out there because you always want to be looking at the cost of the materials in your particular business. Well, I'm Stephen Vantassel. You've been listening to the Wildlife Control Consultant Podcast. Do take a few moments, if you would, to subscribe to the channel, ring the bell, and give us a 5-star rating. We would be grateful for that. If you have questions, comments, would love to hear from you. You can reach me at wildlifecontrolconsultant@gmail.com, wildlifecontrolconsultant@gmail.com. Would love to hear from you. And if you have an idea, topic, suggestion, perhaps you want to be a guest on our show. We're always looking for people who have insight into the industry. Perhaps you have a product or service that you would like to market to the public. We'd love to hear from you. And yes, there is no cost for that. We'd be glad. We want to get information out to the wildlife control community, and we want to play a part in getting information out to people who are in the field doing the good work of helping protect human health and safety and protecting the environment. Well, thanks everyone. Thanks for watching. Until next time, take care.
This is the disclaimer for Wildlife Control Consultant Podcast. Vertebrate pest control is an inherently dangerous activity involving risk of bodily injury to you, others, and or property. Vertebrate pest control also involves legal issues, so be sure to always follow national, state, provincial, and local laws when using pesticides and or other control methods when controlling pests. Wildlife Control Consultant LLC, Stephen M. Vantassel, or their affiliates are not responsible for your use of the information provided here. Always consult a qualified and appropriate professional before employing the information provided here.